All right. Today is February the 24th, and we are going to speak with Michael Hunt, who's running for mayor in the May 1 election here in Amarillo. Michael, welcome.
Well, thank you for having me, Dan.
Well, let's start off talking about who is Michael Hunt. Let's give us a little background, where you were born and raised, where you come from.
Okay.
How'd you end up here? And then we'll go into why you want to be the mayor.
Well, I'm Michael Hunt, and I was born in Lubbock, Texas in 1959 and was raised in Canyon and attended Canyon schools and went on to Texas Tech University and later went back and got my teaching degree through the PACE program at West Texas State. I decided to make a change and go into what I really should have been doing to begin with, which was teaching. So I went back and got that degree and got married. And my wife name is Chip Hunt, and she owns the 6th Street Antique Mall, and we've been on that street doing something for the last 30 years. And I spent most of my teaching career working at the Neal unit out here for the Texas Department of Corrections. And what I did was I was in charge of helping individuals who wanted to improve themselves to get a GED. So when they did get out, that they would have a better chance to have a good life and be more employable and try to keep them from coming back. And very successful program. I think we helped a lot of people improve themselves. And it was kind of in that environment where I kind of learned a lot about having to work on a budget and making decisions every day that sometimes quickly and having to deal in kind of could be a stressful environment, basically, where you have to be always aware of what you're doing and you have to make the best decisions you can every day.
Well, that's fascinating. So what did you get your original degree in?
A BBA at Texas Tech. And I was mostly in outside sales once I graduated college. So I went back, and I was about 30 when I went back and got my teaching certificate. And so I spent a lot of time. I was actually moved down to Dallas, Fort Worth when I got out of Tech. And spent about 4 years there and got back here as quick as I could to Amarillo. This is where I feel comfortable in the Panhandle. I've always really enjoyed it. Canyon was a great place to grow up, and of course, Amarillo was our place to go shop and do stuff every weekend. We'd come up, and my father worked in Amarillo at non-electric, and for years, and so Amarillo has just always been part of my life. For that, except for the time I was in college and when I moved down. But I tell you, just spending enough time in the big city, I realized that I'm just not that kind of person. And I felt like I didn't really know anybody, and it was very hard to get to know people down there. And I came back here, and it just felt like I was home.
Right. Well, that's good. Well, so why do you want to become the mayor of Amarillo?
Well, I want to basically give back to the city of Amarillo. This town has been so good to me and my wife, and we've been able to do so well in our businesses and just being all the things that we've done here. And I want to give back to the city, given my experience as in business, and to try to make it more of a situation where that the people have more influence on, I guess, say, with the government. The mayor's job is, really a servant's position, I feel, and that they serve at the will of the people, and that they represent them, and that they make the decisions for the people the best they can, but are very open to listen to what everybody is interested, what people are interested in, and what their issues are. And I feel like I can be very effective in making these decisions and to work with the people of Amarillo and be a mayor for all of Amarillo.
Yeah, what I kind of understand how the city of Amarillo is set up is you have the mayor and the city council. The mayor's the spokesman for the city, the face of the city. And the mayor, along with the city council's primary duty is to oversee the city manager. Am I right on that?
I believe you're correct on that. Absolutely.
So what do you perceive as some of the biggest issues facing the city of Amarillo today?
Well, I really feel like the taxes increases have been a real issue. Been increased every year for the last 4 years. There's some interest in looking at some of the city services that feel like there's people who need some improvement in that area. Solid waste, animal management, the welfare. And I've had a lot of people interested in looking at how the water department bills people. And I feel like that is resonating a lot with people here in town. And really the lack of responsiveness in the opinion of the people I've talked to of the mayor and the city commission at this point is kind of one of the things that they've been really expressing to me.
So are we considered citizens or subjects?
Absolutely citizens. There's no, it's not a position of like I said, I really feel like the mayor's job is to serve and not to expect people, to serve them. And that's just the way I'm going to approach things if elected.
Well, that's always been my perception of government officials, that they're supposed to be our servants. That's why I never wanted to run for any public office, because I didn't want to have to do what everybody told me. But I guess I was wrong, because it seems to me that they seem to have the opposite opinion sometimes. But what do you mentioned animal welfare. There seems to be a lot of discussion out there now in the media about that issue. Do you have any suggestions on how that could be resolved?
Well, I've been looking into the no-kill shelter that was being talked about and looking at how that would be implemented. And I think that is something that we should really consider and look to do. Sure, it's still going to be, pets would still be euthanized, but at a smaller percentage. And it would, working with the, I know there's a clinic over on 6th that is going out of the way to really try to help people get their animals neutered and spayed, which is another thing that's going to have to, I feel like we're going to really have to make a big push to that for the city, because it's a responsibility of the pet owners to take care of it, and it's a lifetime one, I feel. My wife and I have always had schnauzers, and we feel that they're just like our family. And I know most people do, but there are a lot of dogs that are just running loose in Amarillo, and that's causing some, that's putting a lot more pressure on the people who are working in animal management to try to come to conclude, to handle the situation the best they can, and we may need to look at some different, more resources for them in that area.
What about working with some nonprofits and that sort of thing to resolve the problem? And is it something that maybe the city could turn over to a nonprofit outfit to handle instead of being part of the city?
Well, that's something that could be looked at, be considered. I am not completely familiar with ones that would be interested to handling that, but I would like to look into that and see. I think that would be a better solution in a way, because of the way the nonprofits would handle it, I guess, put it that way.
Well, they have an interest and they care about pets, so
yes.
To me, you want people handling that are interested in the subject.
Yes.
You know, that to me makes sense.
We have our youngest schnauzer we actually rescued from the animal welfare out there. I guess we've had Helga now about 6 years, and they're very professional, very very good people I worked with in getting this adoption done. And I was very pleased with the way it was handled, and I feel like I think they're doing the best they can, honestly, and I just think that they're going to need to maybe change some procedures and especially try to go to the deal where we can go look at the no-kill aspect, because I've heard that it's actually been declared feasible by certain people in Amarillo already. In fact, I believe Jared, the city manager, actually said it could be done. So I'd like to look into that very heavily.
So you mentioned earlier you want to try to look at ways to not have to raise taxes, and of course I think some people have the opinion that you just keep raising taxes because people don't have any choice but to pay it. Is that right?
I don't believe so. I feel like this, especially on the taxes, that should be something that the voters should have some input on, especially the taxpayers that want to be involved and see if it's what the purpose for the increase is, and let them approve anything like that, and try to cut back on costs on things that we can without taking away resources from our first responders, and trying to basically find a way that we can actually trim the budget in some ways that we and think about Austin lobbyists. I don't think we should be paying anybody outside the city for lobbying, and from what I understand, that's a pretty big part of the budget the last couple of years. So
really,
that's what I've heard. So
what are we electing these people for? Isn't that their job?
Yeah, that to me, if I'm elected, I'd be the one to be going down to Austin and talking to these people, and I'm not shy about it. And I go in there and do just as good a job as a lobbyist could, and because more of an understanding of it, and that's what the representative of the city needs, is somebody to do it themselves.
Well, I think it could be made pretty simple. You just pick up the phone and say, "Leave us alone," and hang up, and you're done.
Yeah. That'd be it.
I think we need to take care of ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
We shouldn't be asking the state for anything.
Absolutely. I agree. I think
I think one thing that I hear from voters that really irritates them is when they hear somebody say, well, they do it this way in Austin or they do it this way in Dallas. I don't think that sits well with people in Amarillo. We don't want to be Austin, and we're not Dallas. They want people that want to take the bull by the horns, solve it our way. And in fact, maybe Austin and Dallas need to follow us, not the other way around.
I think that's a very good point. I agree completely with that. Amarillo is my primary concern on this. I don't really care particularly what any of the other cities are doing, and how that they're approaching things. I think we need to look at it because we're kind of like a different little country up here, in my opinion.
Well, we haven't been polluted by their policies yet, but they're trying to bring it up here.
Yeah.
I think what happens, I know what happens. They go to these seminars in these big cities in some fancy hotel, and they think it's nice, and they watch the PowerPoint presentation about how wonderful all this is, and they come back and want to bring that stuff up here.
Yeah.
And they don't even ask where that stuff comes from.
Yeah. I understand.
So you have to be careful. Amarillo may not have the fancy architecture, but it's not the place, it's the people.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
To me, we need to focus on the people. And the rest of that stuff will resolve itself.
Yes, I agree. I feel like there needs to be more of an emphasis on the city government right now to look at more things like infrastructure and using our resources for fixing the roads, improving the light system, just everything that goes along with just what the average people have, that they have to work with every day. And I'm not interested as much in the big projects that we've been looking at. And apparently a lot of the voters aren't either as far as doing that. That's an issue we are going to have to at some point address. But I think right now, especially with the way the troubles we've had in the city, we're just dealing with the COVID pandemic. And like this last week with the weather, that was causing so much, I think we really need to more be focused on the needs of the average people in town and what is of interest to them and how to make their lives better. That's really what I try to do, and I'm looking at doing that with the same amount of enthusiasm that I do in my barbecue business, and because that's basically the only reason I do it. I started that business just because I enjoy making people happy with food and enjoying themselves, and I'd really try to look at it as a servant job too, because I try to make whoever buys the food from me look really good, and make them look like a hero, and I'll put that kind of pride and type of enthusiasm into the job as being the mayor of all of Amarillo, if elected, and I will just put the primary emphasis on the people itself. I agree completely. We're not anywhere like anywhere else in Texas. I don't think. We're a different breed, and I think that that's why that's why I came back. Really, was because of the people and the way they treat each other, and how friendly and how giving the people of the Panhandle and especially of Amarillo. So I agree completely.
Well, I think any business really. That's the nature of business. The business is created to fulfill a need, a perceived need, and the whole idea is to help a person with your product or service. And, we need to get that back into our city government. I'm with you on that.
Yes. I believe that's the way I see it, and that's the way I've always been with everything that I've done. I've have done a lot of volunteer work, different organizations here in Amarillo over the years. I used to be involved with Big Brothers Big Sisters. I also Special Olympics, and I'm a member of the Southwest chapter of AMBUCS, an organization that raises money to give special therapy trikes to children and veterans with disabilities. It gives them the ability of mobility back to them, so that they can get exercise and to help with their therapy. And we also give a lot of scholarships to therapists that are wanting to work with children. So that's an organization I've been involved with for 30 years. I have done quite a bit of different things with different groups over the years, and I really have seen a lot of what is really kind of going on in Amarillo. And I think that's one experience I think that I can help bring to the city, because working as the AAP coordinator for Amarillo Public Schools for 4 years, I got to meet parents from all over the city that their children had been sent to our class. They were suspended from their school. Instead of staying home and playing video games, they sent them to the alternative education program. And there we worked with these children and their parents on how to keep up with their schoolwork, keep them on task, and to try to find out what was going on with them, see if we couldn't help in some way, and get other people involved, counselors and people to talk. And so I've met a lot of people from all over the town from that, and working in the prison system, I've met a lot of people from a lot of different backgrounds, and really got to kind of feel for what a different perspective some people have, and but that and working well with the budget, and trying and sticking with it, because every time I've been on a budget, once it's gone, it's gone. And then what I would do, I work well with a group and as a team, and I feel like that I can lead and be the voice of the citizens on the council, and to just kind of bring back more of a feeling of kind of, I don't say small town mayor, but just the idea that, Amarillo has grown so much. It really has. There's been a lot of change since I came back here in the late 80s. But it still has a very small town feel to me. And I think that's what I really like. And that's that we feel like we're not one of these big cities, and that we have a little bit more, down to earth, a little more common sense.
Common sense. It's not so common anymore.
That's true. So,
yeah. Well, I think it all starts with in our schools, really.
Yes.
The schools are so important.
Yes.
People don't realize it. And when I get in these discussions with people, I say, look, the real problem, it's not, I have a friend in the governor's office, and when I get on a rant, she'll calm me down, and she'll say, now, Dan, just calm down. It's the system isn't broken. It's designed that way. Which kind of makes me think, some things are designed to fail. So you just have to figure out how to work around that system and beat it. But sometimes I think our education system's designed that way. But it turns out, I believe, our problem's really a responsibility issue. Almost every problem we have comes down to individual responsibility or the lack thereof. So if people are responsible for their children, responsible for their pets, responsible for themselves, almost all problems vanish. So what we need to do is figure out a way to go back into these at a young age. The problem is we have to start with the parents. They have to understand responsibility. The question is how to do that. Do you make everybody wear a mask because they might get sick? Is that being responsible? I don't think so. But that's how this stuff gets started, because people aren't responsible. But being an educator, you probably get to understand how all that works better than about anybody. And that's really what you're trying to do in your education, I think, is really teaching people to be responsible.
That was a big issue, especially when I was working with TDC and trying to instill a sense of responsibility in the people I was working with, and to make them realize they can have some, if they could. And I used to kind of say I taught them reading, writing, and self-respect. And I had people saying, well, I don't want you teaching those people self-respect. They're criminals. I said, well, if somebody has self-respect and confidence, they don't act as badly. And it changes it. I saw such a change in some of these guys who just, you'd think they just look at you and you think they're just ready to go there and just beat you up. But the response that they had when they actually passed the GED test and got to go and go to graduation, it was just amazing, the change in somebody that actually has accomplished something like that. And I think that's really what I got out of it. I really went out there to teach for a few years and then go back to public schools, in which my first true love was really working more with elementary students. And I just got so involved with it out there, I stayed 18 years. And it really was because of the results of these people changing their lives, and just seeing how happy they were and how you can just tell a whole big difference. And I want to bring that type of mentality to the mayor position, and I want people to succeed. I want everybody to do well. I want everybody to just be happy with what they're doing and feel responsible for what they're doing, and it makes for just a much better person in general.
I think there's a segment of society that believes that in order for one to succeed, another has to not succeed, or they think that in economics, that the pie is only so big. There's
Right.
only so much money,
Yes.
and that's just totally false. Everything is unlimited.
Absolutely.
So if you can get people to understand that there are no limits to what any one person can do or what you can create,
Yes.
that's the key. And it's a big hurdle. I mean, the problem I think is with the different parties. The conservatives believe that you can do anything, and the liberals believe there's a certain size pie, and those that get rich did so because others got poor, and that's just totally wrong.
Well, you're absolutely right about that. It's not a winner and loser situation like that in life. You can bring everybody up with the where everybody can be lifted up, and that's really what I got out of being in education, and really that's what I really was good at was helping people do that, and to show get and treat everybody with dignity and respect. It's amazing how people respond to that little bit. People that have had such a tough time in life and they don't really like authority people at all. I didn't treat the situation as I was their authority. I was there to help them, and I was there to help them improve themselves and to better their lives and their families. And I see that as the same type of job here as mayor, is to be responsive to everybody and to try to bring everybody up and to do well.
My main focus is trying to engage the voters and get participation in the voting process. And I've been trying to do some things. And the reason that it's so important to me is that every voter is 100% equal. And if I can just get that through people's head, if they can understand that concept, it will totally change how they think about things. Because I don't care if you're the dumbest, poorest, or the dumbest, smartest person in Amarillo. It doesn't matter who you are. Your vote is equal to everybody else's. So my vote's equal to Warren Buffett's vote, or your vote's equal to Melania Trump's vote. We are all 100%. We have the exact same amount of say in our government.
Absolutely.
So local government, city the most local, well, it comes in county and down to our precinct level.
Yes.
Is where we can have such a huge impact if we'll just show up. Absolutely. All we have to do is show up. And those who have taken the responsibility to run, to me, that's taking responsibility. I think is huge. We should commend those people, get to know who they are, so that the people within your jurisdiction can make the right decision for them. So it's about voting, and it's about running for office, being responsible. So you're responsible if you vote. You're responsible, even more responsible if you run for office like you're doing. So I think it all comes back to the responsibility thing. And that's why I'm trying to get people to understand that and get more participation. So
absolutely. I've been really trying to reach out to all different parts of Amarillo and talk. In fact, I've had people from just every neighborhood have asked for signs from me and have contacted me or want to talk. And I've told them, and I've talked to probably about 25 people on the phone. I've met with quite a few down at my shop that wanted to sit and talk. And I'm more than more than willing to do that with everybody. And I feel like I'm a good listener, and that I will make decisions for people as far as the city, what needs to be done, and I'll stick to it, and I'll hold myself accountable for it and responsible. That when it comes down to that, and I just feel like that is personal responsibility is a key issue as you brought up with everybody and everything of that area.
What do you think about the famous rain tax we have here in Amarillo? They call it a drainage fee. I call it a rain tax, but I own a lot of property, so I have a different perception than the bureaucrats.
Yes.
What do you think about that?
I don't know if it was ever really explained to anybody what that was for and what it was go to. I know that a lot of people complain about that they feel like it's just another fee, another, on the people that, and I don't feel like it's necessarily with what I would probably have to look at that quite a bit, because I'm not really for sure what it goes to and why they came up with it to begin with.
Well, to me, it's a property tax.
Well,
that's the way I look at it.
Sounds like an addition to it. Yeah.
And I think they may have violated some rules, so they think they can get by with calling it a fee. Mm-hmm. But it's not a fee because they don't put it on their bill. It's a separate bill, mm-hmm. which makes no sense. Why are they sending out a separate bill for an average of whatever it is, $5 or $10 a month per property that they're billing? So you're having to spend a couple of dollars just in postage and handling and envelopes and all that to get it out. And then it's just irritating to everybody. Of course, I own a lot of property, and then we manage property for others, and then owners get it. They'll send it directly to an owner, and then we have to straighten all that out. And it's just a nightmare. And it creates a lot of extra work for everybody.
Yeah.
And they don't care. And I tried to say, why are you taxing me on the rain? I said, if you'll guarantee me X amount of rain, particularly if you can shoo it out over the ranch, I'll be happy to pay the tax. But you're not giving me a guarantee of moisture. Mm-hmm. They said, oh, no, it doesn't have anything to do with rain. I go, well, it says drainage. They said, oh, well, that's if your sprinkler system runs off into the city street. Mm-hmm. I said, number one, how many properties do I own that have sprinkler systems? Number two, where does the water come from that comes out of the sprinkler system? They said, oh, well, that comes from the city. I said, where does the water from the city come from? Oh, well, that comes from some wells in Lake Meredith. I said, where does the water from the ground in Lake Meredith come from? Needless to say, the conversation deteriorated from there, and they got madder and madder because they realized they couldn't answer the question. Mm-hmm. And what I have found is when people get mad, they're really not mad at me. Right. They're really mad at themselves because they don't know. Problem is, they don't have the courage to say, I don't know, nor do they tend to be responsible enough to go find out. And that's what irritates, I think, other voters as well as myself. It's just a way to come up with money. Be honest. Why didn't they raise trash $5 on everybody and nobody would have complained? They would have said, oh, our costs are going up. We're going to do this. But then you drive down Soncy and you see them building houses in the bottom of a Palaya Lake, putting in all these pumps and everything that they think, will save that development, right? But I got news for them. What happens when you have a major storm? The power goes out. We just saw it.
Yes.
They don't think ahead, all to try to make a little extra money. And they're putting, and the people buying those houses, they don't think about what could go wrong. I mean, it's just, that's the type of thing that I think the voters of Amarillo are wanting people in position that have good judgment, that can think ahead, that have some experience in dealing with problems, because we don't seem to have those. And it's probably not the council members and the mayor's fault. You know, they say, well, we hire city manager to do this, which to me, that should be their primary responsibility, is making sure these things don't happen, you know. But I had a guy work for me for years, and he said he built Sonsi, and he told him it's 4 feet too low. That road needs to be at least 4 feet higher. It's going to go underwater. He said, oh, no, it'll never be underwater. 2 days after he told me that,
Yes.
this is about 5 years ago, driving north on Sonsi, the westbound lane was closed and one lane open going north because of water. And we had only had a small rain. You get a 7-inch rain in 30 minutes over there, you're going to have problems. And those are the type of things that worry me, because you're putting people's lives and property in danger because of not thinking ahead. So I think the citizens of Amarillo they just want people with some common sense. So how do we get that through to the rest of the city council and the mayor and the city manager, and how do we resolve those problems long term? In other words, I'm saying we need people that can look 50 years down the road.
I understand. I feel like that I have experience with just dealing with things in the common sense and looking ahead and trying to see what problems could be, and asking a lot of questions and listening to find out what people they're telling you the information that you need to know, especially in something like that with the streets. I actually was graduated high school the year Canyon flood in 1978. I've seen what happens when a 100-year flood comes in and just flooded half of Canyon completely. That was it, especially in the northern part. That was and it was very devastating. And nobody ever thought it would happen, but it did. And so looking at it and considering all that, when you're putting in new buildings and new roads, and that needs to be looked into.
You're adding load, and they don't think about it. Yeah. They're going to make it worse.
Yeah.
So some things you can't fix.
That's true.
But you can't blame. It just happens.
Yes.
The problem with Canyon is there's nowhere for the water to go.
That was it.
It doesn't make any difference how much you did. I don't think it's not going to make any difference.
No, it's the location of it and the way it's set. You know, it's a kind of a natural bowl there, and it's kind of hard to deal with. But that was a very, and we haven't had one down there since. But you know, it's only been 40-something years, I guess, now since that was. But anyway, yeah, looking ahead and trying to think through things, I think is a very important aspect of being in the leadership.
So I guess Amazon's coming to town, I hear. Is that a done deal, or do you know?
I don't know if that's a done deal yet or not. I've heard different opinions on that. It's interesting. I just see what they're going to do. I haven't heard exactly what I guess it's going to be a distribution center, I think is what they're looking at. But I think they're still looking at a couple of locations, what I've heard.
I hear they're doing dirt work out there. So
well, I've heard that too.
I think Amazon's still trying to shake them down for tax abatements.
I'm sure they are.
But to me, whenever somebody has to come in and get tax abatements to move or do business in your city, that tells me one thing. Your taxes are too high. I mean, if you have to get
your point,
if you can't come into town and do business without reducing your taxes, what do you think it's doing to the people that are already there?
yeah. Well, I think that is a very, very sticking point for a lot of people in town is the tax rate, and that they want to get some relief on it. I think they feel it's too high, and that would be something we definitely need to look at. And as far as without trying to cut into what we need for the basically, I guess shuffling some things around that we're spending money on now that we need to change, so we can use it on and still lower the taxes and still use it on the project where the things that we have to with infrastructure, first responders, everything the city should have. That's something we don't want to cut into that, but we want to maybe cut into the other things that we shouldn't be doing so much.
Maybe we could shift around where we spend money.
I think that would be the best way to look at it, and to try not to do any more increases. And I feel very strongly, if there was, it needs to be something the voters have some input on.
So you mentioned earlier something about, before we started, about you were talking about the senior citizens situation where there's some concern in the community about them being asked to move out of the facility that they were using. Is that something you're interested in taking a look at?
I am talking with some people this next week about it, and to find out more about what the situation is, and if there's something that the city should be getting involved with. I've been told that a lot of the towns, I think even when someone mentioned Lubbock, actually, where the city actually helps the senior citizen group to, and kind of has a budget for them, is what I've been told. I'm going to look into that more and see what the situation is, and if there is some way we could maybe help them get somewhere. That was a nice place they were at before. I've been there many times.
Yeah,
and,
I know. We used to have our Lions Club meetings there now and then.
I was disappointed to hear that they could no longer meet there, but well, we can look at it.
Well, to me, we need to, there may be an untapped gold mine there of the senior citizens, because I always say what little I know, which isn't very much, I always learned from people older than me, right?
Exactly.
So maybe we need to listen to some of those older folks and bring them in and get their ideas on how to resolve some of these issues with the city. They probably have some pretty good ideas.
They could. I think that's a good point.
So maybe we just need to move them to City Hall.
Find some room for them. There are other buildings in town that are empty that might get somebody to actually donate, and help furbish it up and get it to go. That's something to look at. There's, like I said, there's a lot of people in Amarillo that are so giving and so willing to help, and that I feel that might be the one thing to look at and see if we can do it, and do it where it's feasible, that we can afford to, maybe the city can help with some of that, or or helping to find the actual location.
So where do you see Amarillo in 10 years?
I see us as a city that is going to be in really good shape as far as when we're recovering from all this, the pandemic situation. And I think that the future looks very good for Amarillo. We've expanded so much over the last 40 years or 35 years I've been back here, different things, and we're getting more diversified in the types of jobs we have, and kind of I think that the potential is there because of our workforce, that we could attract more and keep growing. I mean, we're growing leaps and bounds as far as all the new developments and everything we've got coming in, and I think we have been hurt less than a lot of other places in the state have because of the type of town we have and the people. And so I think that's very positive future ahead, and that we can, if we work together and make the right decisions, we can just keep moving forward into this new decade.
How do people get a hold of you?
You can reach me. I have Michael for Amarillo webpage. I'm on Facebook, and I have a phone number. They're welcome to call me at any time. It's my business number, 677-4543. And or text me. The easiest way to get a hold of me, and I'll call you back. If somebody wants to talk about what I feel and what I see, I'd be happy to talk to them.
Very good. Is there anything else you'd like the voters to know about you, or why they should choose you over your opponent or opponents?
I look at the only reason I'm doing this really is to be of service and to Amarillo citizens, and to basically just have an attitude that we can do things. We can grow. We can bring everybody up. We can do a lot of things as a city, and that I'm willing to put the effort into it and the enthusiasm I think is needed to accomplish that. And I just feel like it's something I really want to get back to the city and treat it as well as it's treated me.
Very good. Well, we appreciate you coming by, Michael. And good luck. And if we can ever help you, let us know and come back anytime.
Well, thank you so much, Dan. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.